Hey everybody. Okay, so I wanted to touch on a topic today that's been racing through my mind, and I've thought about this before, but I really wanted to really set down some real guidelines for why I believe this. You'll have people that say, "Make America great again." Oh, it's just foolishness, right? So it brings the question: was America ever really great? That's a fair question. You can't say make it great again. That assumes that it was great. So my supposition is that no, America was never great. It wasn't. Okay. And there's a lot of definitive reason to make that statement because just think about how this country was founded. Okay. We have the specter of slavery. We have a whole bunch of things that just set the tone for why this country has had the problems that it has and continues to have the problems that it has. So I just wanted to go and do a quick Cliff Notes version of our history in North America. Okay. So let's just start by saying the indigenous people were here first. Okay. Columbus didn't discover a thing. It wasn't lost. The people that were there weren't lost. And even for the Norse that came in the late 10th century, they came, they saw, they left, and they said, okay, fine, whatever. They didn't kill anybody, certainly not to the extent that the Europeans did. They made a settlement, it didn't work out, they left, right? In comes the Europeans in the late 15th century, so, a la Columbus. The cat's doing weird things over here, but that's okay. We'll just ignore him. So here comes the Europeans, and they basically brought all of their diseases with them. They brought all of their craziness with them, and conquest, colonization, the word that we've lived with for a significant portion of our collective history. Our history is one of colonization and conquest. So, because empire. So, I have to say, when we have that as the premise by which this country was founded, and we thought it was okay to relocate people from another location to a whole completely different world, and then reframe the history around that so that people think, oh well, it was just a migration, it wasn't anything serious. No, you can't whitewash history in that respect. Okay, so if you guys have never seen or read about the 1619 project, I suggest you do. I'll leave a link in this video. Okay, but 1619 is the first year in which African slaves were brought to the United States. Okay, North America, right? Let's just clarify. But the slave trade had been going on for some time. And this is why we see a lot of the problems that we see in North and South America specifically. So they brought, via the transatlantic trade, they brought a bunch of slaves from Western Africa to Brazil first. I got my eye on you, Brazil. Brazil, you playing games, okay? Brought it from Brazil first, and then the second wave of that went to the Caribbean and into North America. So here's the problem. We have a displacement of people, unwillingly so. Displacement of people from one area to another. What do you think is going to happen? That when you treat slaves as property, they have no rights. They have no means to be able to support themselves or any of that. They have nothing. They're in literal servitude. Okay. When you have people in that sort of situation, and then as time progressed and people got woke before woke became a term, to say, okay, we're just gonna stop this Atlantic trade situation. We're gonna just ban that, and legally you're not allowed to do it. So who was ahead of the curve? Denmark. Denmark banned it in 1792. Okay. And then Britain did it closely thereafter, but Britain is nobody's paragon of virtue. So we're just going to put them on the side and have a discussion about them another time. But then in the United States, it's a very funny thing. So they technically banned the trade itself, bringing people from Africa to the United States in 1794. But they didn't ban slavery itself until 1865. So let's think about that for a second. You have over 70 years where people thought, okay, we shouldn't bring any more people, but we're going to keep this structure because it's economically better for us and economically feasible because us rich white men need to keep our cotton growing and picking. The mental space that somebody has to be in to think that it's okay to do that sort of stuff. It's always been problematic, and it's still problematic. So, and then last but not least, once again, let's come back to Brazil. Okay. So Brazil did the exact same thing as the United States. They said, okay, we're not going to bring any more slaves over from Western Africa. They stopped that in 1831. Okay. But they didn't actually stop the system of slavery until 1888. That's mind-boggling, okay? And it explains a lot. It explains a lot of what happens in that country as well as what has happened in our country. The reason why this is not a great situation, why this people that are still in a subjugated sort of scenario, is because while we may have made the legal changes, and it's important to make legal changes, it needs to be documented, it needs to be on the books, and it needs to set a precedent for future things where we have something written down that says, no, you cannot do this anymore. Okay, so legal standards and legal acceptance is extremely important. But what has never happened is a cultural shift. Okay, so this is why we had Jim Crow. This is why Reconstruction failed. This is why we had a whole generations of Black people that were not able to take advantage of the economic gains and spoils of the resurgence in the early part of the 20th century. You know, this is why we have significantly less Black home ownership than we do in comparison to other groups, specifically white Americans. So it comes as no surprise. And that's because just because you banned the practice, the absolutely horrific practice, banning the practice does not mean that things get better. It doesn't change people's minds mentally. And they keep that mental position moving forward from generation to generation. They continue to teach their kids that you're better than these people. They continue to teach in schools or to dilute the message of what slavery was and how to change that perception as we progress into the future. So legal change is important, but we cannot have equality in any way, shape, or form until we change the mentality, until we make a cultural shift that makes it absolutely unacceptable to do what they have done for hundreds of years. Okay? Yes, perhaps it's not slavery in the form that we experience, that our ancestors experienced, right? Horrific. I can't even imagine. But my mother lived through Jim Crow era. You know, that's a generation ago, you know, that's how close it is, you know. So we have to really be careful and not let ourselves fall into a sense of complacency, which is basically what has happened over the last 50 years, 40 years since the fight in the civil rights fight in the 60s. Okay, people have gotten complacent and they're not looking at the fact that these freedoms are not free. Okay, they come with sacrifice, they come with continual pressure, and they come with the necessity for mental change and for cultural change. And this is why we see the mentality shifting about LGBTQ people that have been discriminated against for a very long time. This is a mental and cultural shift that's happening way quicker than what has happened to Black people. So suffice it to say, let's get the legal changes in place, the structural changes, certainly the police brutality, the disconnect between economic and educational equality, so that children in poorer areas are still able to get quality education, that they're still able to have access to the opportunities that other people have, right? But similarly, we need to make sure that people don't take for granted what we have already received, we have already in place. Voting, okay? We didn't fight as long as we did for all of the lives that have been sacrificed for us to not go and vote. Are you kidding me? What? It's important to go and vote. Get your local people in. If you feel like you're a good candidate for that sort of thing, then you put your hat in, you know? But it's not just going to happen in a vacuum. It's not just going to miraculously and mysteriously, it came to us and now everything is good. No, this is why people are protesting in the streets. They're protesting because it's an outrage, and they're protesting because people need to remember that cultural shifts are happening. This is a real thing that is happening right now. And I'm happy to see that there are so many allies out there that are standing in that space and being a voice, not only with and in concert, in conjunction with Black people and other people of color, but they're calling out their other white friends. They're calling out people that are not getting the message that it's not okay to be this way, that you will get called out and be held to account for the words that come out of your mouth and the perspective that you have. They will be challenged to take a very close look at their personal beliefs, at their tightly held beliefs. And this is overdue. It's overdue. Keep up the momentum, everybody. Keep talking about it. Keep calling people out, because it needs to happen. It needs to happen, and we need to make this mental shift. It's overdue. Okay, folks, are done. We're done. I can't even describe it any other way. We're done. All right. This is 2020. I hope this year goes down as a year of miracles, despite the foolishness that's been happening. Okay. Let's get it together. Let's keep it going. Let's vote and get this fool out of office. Man, he is a disgrace to the office of presidency. Get him out. Okay. Let's get this right. We can get this right. All right. That's all I got to say for now, because this ran way too long. I have more, and we're going to be coming back for some more very, very soon. Talk to you later. Peace.